Hi everyone, I'm delighted to introduce you to our author chat with Jim Ody today. He's going to introduce himself now and tell us a little bit about his books.
Hi, yes, so I'm Jim Ody and I write predominantly, psychological thrillers, but I also delve into kind of mystery, young adult, and horror as well. So this year I did my first series. So that was it's a Hudson Bell series. So that's the first book, and that's the follow-up book there. So just briefly, Hudson Bell used to be a police detective. However, after an incident, which is what the first book is very much about, he no longer works as a policeman, but he works as a police consultant. He kind of went on leave and then was talked back into it. So along with his sidekick, Jez, who's an IT expert, the two of them basically pick up cold cases, and they tend to surround either missing children or vulnerable children and look to kind of help them out and sort things out that way. So yeah, 12 books I've written so far, and hopefully got a fair few planned for next year.
Excellent. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Little Miss Evil, which is your most recent release?
Yeah, so Little Miss Evil is released on, I think it's Monday. So I think it's on the 30th, whatever day that is. I think that's Monday.
Monday.
So that's my first kind of horror book. I mean, I say horror, but a lot of people will know from my books that actually, whilst I do write in different genres, a lot of my books are very much along the same kind of. They all are very similar in how I write them, I guess, and I just kind of dip in and out of different genres along the way. So this is set in it's Tall Trees campsite. Basically, it's deep in a valley in Wiltshire, and there's been some history going on there. Some things have happened in the past, and the story surrounds a number of different people as they are either staying at the campsite, staying in cottages near the campsite, or other places around there, basically. And all of them have deep, dark secrets. And eventually, as the book goes on, we find out exactly what it's all about and what happens with it. This book was actually just meant to be a quick novella. I was just going to quickly write something down just to get something out. It was going to be another one of those books, a bit like Beneath the Whispers, that's just short. I could use it as a bit of a promo book to get people interested in the rest of my writing, that sort of thing. However, like a lot of my books, specifically ones I'm writing now, they kind of get away from me and I get completely immersed in them, and they just extend and get longer. This was meant to be just a very simple story. But as is with my books, suddenly there was a bit of a backstory suddenly snuck up, and then other characters found their way into the book, and before I knew it, it was the usual kind of twisty turny, lots of different things kind of all playing out and coming together. So it ended up being one of my bigger books, actually. But yeah, really enjoyed writing it.
So I gave Little Miss Evil one of my rare 5-star reviews, and I don't give many of those out. It is really gruesome in places. How, you're such a nice man, how do you come up with such horrible things?
I mean, I've always been a fan of people like Richard Lehman. This is, I'd say, very kind of Richard Lehman-esque, along with the likes of, if people are aware of like your Point horror books, your Christopher Pike books, it's kind of a step after those. So you might start with those types of books, and this kind of leads you into something a little bit darker. I wanted it based kind of around your almost 80s horror movie type thing, with campsites and people suddenly disappearing and whatever. I don't think it's quite entirely like that, but that's the kind of theme I wanted to give it. and then with a little bit more of a, you know, psychological edge, where there's just something a bit more than just someone going around killing people, because it's not quite that. There's certainly more to it that I was trying to bring to it. But in a strange way, it's just trying to be a bit of fun, really. And yeah, I guess in places, in scenes, it kind of got away from me a bit. But I just wanted to, yeah. Usually, it's slightly dark and I have a bit of humour, but yeah, I guess I quite enjoyed going completely the other way and trying to be a little bit gruesome. It's just the way it is, I suppose, sometimes.
Now, there was a question before we went live from Pauline Render Byron. She said that she loves the Hudson Bell books, especially the relationship between Hudson and Jez. Is Jez's enthusiasm for almost everything based on anyone you know?
So, not particularly anyone in, specifically. What I would say is you often have flashes of people like Jez throughout life. I've worked in a lot of large corporations where there's been a lot of people. And what I find is often you'll have the odd people who might be someone like a temp who doesn't really want to be there. And actually they act very much like they don't want to be there. And it's almost like a time bomb ticking as to how long they'll be there before they're marched out. And so Jez is very much like probably 2 or 3 people that I've known who have been like that, who've just worked alongside me without a care in the world. And they've been wonderful to kind of bounce off of with humor and things like that. And that's what I really enjoy, is kind of the banter of the back and forth, and having someone else who's kind of a lead with comedy that I can just kind of bounce back off of. So Jez is very much like that, and that's why he appears in a lot of my books, because I love that play of, he's very innocent, and yet he's got this very childish kind of humor to him, albeit he's very clever when it comes to electronics and technology and things like that. But yeah, if he thinks something, he says it. He doesn't really care about it. And I think that plays for a nice little relationship with Hudson, who's a little bit more he very much thinks about what he's saying, and he understands situations and he understands people, whereas Jez doesn't understand people at all. He just completely says what he wants, says what anything at all, and that's just the way he is.
So I always wondered if Jez had a little bit of you in him.
I think all of the characters have a bit of me in them, to be honest. Depends on how much I've drunk.
We've got a few comments on the stream already. One of our new members, Ali Queenie Race, says she's from Wiltshire, so maybe she'll be checking out your books. Livia is wondering if there's going to be another Hudson Bell book.
There will be. I've got plans for probably book 3 and book 4. I've probably got more of an idea on book 4 than book 3. Sounds very daft, but because of how I'm kind of thinking into the future, there's things I want to add into a story, but book 3 is too soon. And this is one of the differences I've found. Now I've started writing a series rather than standalones. With the standalones, I can pretty much just go wherever I want. But with a series, I've got to now start thinking, how many books am I thinking of doing? How much information am I going to give away? Where are we going to go next? How do I make it? I don't want the series to ever be very samey at all. And I think as soon as a book sounds like one of the previous ones, I think I'll end the series there. So yeah, that's it really.
You say that the others are standalones, but they do have like characters sort of woven in between each one, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I cheated with not specifically having a series, and I guess I liked the Stephen King kind of way he sets things in the same town, and he will also have characters that will go in and out, and I very much liked that. So yeah, you're right. I mean, Lost Connections was my first book. Jez was in that one. Jez was then in the second one. The main guy, Eddie from Lost Connections, was then the barman at Jez's sister's wedding in the second one, and there's all these things. I do a lot of nods to other stories in my other books. So, for instance, a lifetime ago, we have Robert and Nadia, who are looking for a new house near the coast, and they actually mentioned that they went to Huntswood Cove to look at a house, but there was loads of police there and something going on, and that is reference to the place that never existed. So there's lots of little things that I kind of like to speak of the other books. And I think in most of my books, at one point, a character will be reading one of my books and saying how bad it is. That's kind of one of the little traits I like to sneak in there somewhere along the line.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. I like spotting them. When I read it, the references to whatever book they're reading. There's one in Little Miss Evil, isn't it? I think they're reading like Lost Connections.
That's right. No, exactly. I'm not even sure. I'll have to write them down at some stage, what ones that I've actually mentioned and the ones I haven't, so that I'm, trying to give them all a fair shot.
The other thing that you mention a lot in your books is music. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your kind of connections with music?
Yeah, so I mean, I've always been a great lover of music ever since I was small. However, I did used to write reviews and go to gigs and interview bands for a website I did it for one website for a couple of years, beginning of about 2000, and from about 2002 to probably about 2010, 2011, I was heavily involved in a website, and that was going all over the place, going to gigs, and I was getting 10 to 15 albums a week to review and singles, and it was brilliant. I really enjoyed it, but that type of journalism wasn't really. I enjoyed it on the short term, but you were very much controlled by record labels, managers. People wanted you to write certain things, and that wasn't me. I didn't want to be told what to write. For me, if you write a review about what you think and what you feel, not what's in vogue, what people think you should be writing. I had a manager of one of the bands actually complain to my editor because I'd said I didn't like the single, and he'd said, well, everyone else likes it. And I said to my editor then, I could change the review if you want me to, but I won't be doing any more reviews because that's not what I want to do. And he completely backed me up and said, no, that's fine. So yeah, I've always enjoyed music. I enjoy music still to this day. I play the drums. I had to go at playing the guitar once, but my wife plays the guitar a lot better than I do. And yeah, it's just always been a part of everything I do. Wherever I go in the car, I have a mixtape on or whatever. I mean, now, I've been brought kicking and screaming into the 20th century, and I actually subscribe to Amazon now, so I have a playlist, and it's all crazy that I can now listen to whatever I want at a touch of a button. So it's and the good thing is my wife's finally trying to get rid of most of my CD collection because she said I don't need them anymore. So that's a bonus. That's more room for us.
Nice. Tell us a little bit about your planning process then, because you have books planned out for like about 4 years or something, don't you?
Yeah,
Plan really far ahead.
I wouldn't say I'm renowned as being a planner. However, I think of books a lot quicker than I can write them. So I have all these ideas written down, and I have all these things on what I want to do and the order I want to do them in. And, often it will change. Circumstance changes. I listen to readers. I listen to, what people are saying and what they want to be reading from me next. The bottom line is I will probably do what I want to do, but that's not to say I'm not completely influenced by what others are saying and what others are telling me. So, yeah, I've got next year's changed about 3 or 4 times, but like I say, at the moment, it's pretty much Hudson Bell book 3 and possibly 4, I've got an anthology I want to be releasing. I've got about 11 short stories. I've cut them down to that have about 8 or 9 of them have been previously released in other individual anthologies. Now I'm going to bring them all together. I'm adding things like some poems, some bits of writing, things that crop up on my Spooky Circus page. You know, sometimes there'll be the odd post where I'll just write things out and people will ask, you know, is this the beginning to a new book? And I'll say, no, I just felt like I needed to write something, so I just put something down. And those, you know, I'm just clipping those out and sticking them into the book. So I hope to have that out next year. And so Little Miss Evil, that was meant to be the small novella, is now going to be a trilogy. So book 2 of that I will more than likely start writing next year. I've got The Crazy Season. I almost forgot about that one. I've even got a cover for that and everything. I've written probably about 2 chapters of that. And the ending keeps changing. So it depends on whether I want to go crazy or slightly more commercial. And I want to very much go crazy, but I'm not sure whether it's the right decision or not. So we'll see on that. You know, and I might just park that and carry on with other things. You know, I've got a I think what they call them is like just like a psychological house noir or whatever, with a kind of you know, a family with something going on there. I've had that planned for about 2 years. Someone even did me a cover for that. Now, whether I'll get to that next year, I'm not sure. That is probably going to be my most commercial book. So we'll have to see on that, depending on what happens in the next couple of months or so. That might determine what I do with that book. And at some stage, I've got a complete bizarre fun book, which is basically a road trip with Jez in it, with another couple of characters that have been in my other books, and they're all just going to come together. They're going to go off to America, and they're just going to get into complete mayhem. So I've already got a cover for that, and that just needs writing. But that will be another book, a bit like Mystery Island, where I just had fun with it. I just sat down and I thought, I want this to be a bit of an adventure and a bit of fun. It's going to be comedy with a lot of banter, and if people like it, then brilliant. If they don't, then it's just another little book for me, and I'll stick it to the side, and you know, that's the way it is. But yeah, I've got them going on for years after that. You know, eventually I'll get my 4 books back from my US publisher, so you know, come 2026 those will be redone, and the years from now to 2026 are slowly building up. I think I've worked out 2025. I think I'm free in that one, possibly some of 2024, but the rest of it I'm pretty much building up.
So when you're about to start, so say you sat down to do Hudson 3, how much of a plot do you have in advance?
Pretty much nothing. I'll just start with a scene, and it will be Hudson and Jez will just start a conversation, and Jez will say something stupid. It'll go back and forth a little bit of that, and then the scene there will then start. I'll be thinking about some sort of, because there will have to be some main case that's going on, so that will probably be worked out, and that will determine where it's going to be set. But that's pretty much it. I'll just start writing and see where it takes me, really. At some point, probably halfway through, I'll get more of an idea of what I want to do with that. And then a twist will come as well. But I won't worry about that. I just relax, and I never set out to do a twist. I never set out to have unexpected endings. They just always, somewhere along the line, they just appear. Because the process goes on for, 2 to 3 months, I'm quite happy that, come the end of the second month or into the third, something will just pop into my head and I'll go, yeah, I like that one. And, I'll have to go back to the beginning and start rethreading things back in. But that's just the way I work. I tend to write probably twice the size of book than actually gets released, because I don't completely plan or do anything like that. I love it when I see authors have their wall of sticky bits of paper with all the characters on, and they can tell you everything about the character, and that is fantastic. And that's just not me at all. Everything is in my head. I might have a couple of scribbles here and there, but no, I just kind of go with it. I mean, with the series, it's been slightly different, because you kind of have to start understanding what you said before. So I'm starting to make a few notes of what's in the first couple of books to know where to go.
Do you not keep notes about your characters then? Even
No.
because they reappear all the time. How do you keep them?
I don't have a great memory. In fact, I rewatch movies that had twists in them, and I don't remember the twists. One of my books, which one was it? It was, hold on, have a look. It was A Cold Retreat. And because I do a lot of twists in my book, there was one twist I completely forgot. When I was rereading it and I was re-releasing it earlier this year, I was going through it and I was thinking, I should have done this. That would have worked out good. And when I was reading it through, I was like, wow, I did do that. I didn't remember that at all. That's brilliant. So it's just, I don't know. My memory isn't the best, but some things I will. Give me any, musical reference or whatever, and I will be able to tell you songs. I'll be able to tell you the year they were released and everything. And it's the same with any football stat from, the late 80s onwards. But, ask me anything else and it just goes straight in and straight out. So I buy all my favorite movies, because within a couple of years I can watch them again and I've completely forgotten what actually happened at the end. So it's fantastic like that. I just build up all these movies that I know I'll enjoy in the future.
So it takes you 2 to 3 months to write them. What's your next step after you got that first draft done?
Okay, so I completely finish, go back over, I'll reread it completely, and I don't make many changes that second time. Then from there, I have some beta readers. I tend to send it to around 5 or 6 people. That will vary from for different authors, and the purpose of a beta reader differs as well for different people. For me, if I have any more than 5 or 6 people, then all I end up with is loads of different documents with loads of things to go through, and predominantly they pick up most of the issues that 1 or 2 will raise. I tend to have different people who I know focus on different areas of writing, and for me that works better. And you get to know people, and you get to know what their strengths at looking at my mistakes, basically, and what they can put right. And it's just the way it is. The way I write quickly, and sometimes your mind works a lot quicker than your fingers can type, and you'll miss words out. And I will reread that, and I will still won't see the words that I've missed. However, someone else will read over it and they'll pick that up. And on the flip side of that, I've read other people's work and I've picked up loads of mistakes that they've not seen. You just come accustomed to your own writing, and you start predicting the words without actually looking at exactly what's in front of you. So with beta readers, it's usually a couple of weeks, and then they send them back. I do the edits within 1 or 2 days, and then I send it out to ARC readers, so the advanced copies. And that can, depending on how my planning's going, that will be anywhere between a week before release and the release date, basically. And, that is any number of people, really. I've got quite a large ARC review group, which a lot of members of this group are in, which is fantastic. And, they're all willing to take a punt on some of my books, which is fantastic. And kind of goes from there. So actually, from when I finished the first draft to being released, it's still probably only 3 to 4 weeks. So I have those types of things nicely planned out. My only mistake really was with Little Miss Evil, and I put it on pre-order before I'd even written. I'd probably written about 3 or 4 chapters, and I had it on pre-order, which I don't normally do. I normally put it on pre-order when I finished it, and suddenly I was inundated with other writing, other projects, and my work just went completely mental. So that I was working probably 19 extra hours a week, and so I was starting work at 7, and I was finishing at like 5:30, 6 o'clock, and I did that for about 2 months, and that really put my writing schedule completely out. And my full-time job has to take precedent over my writing. That's how I make money, and how I can afford to feed the kids. Most of them, anyway. Some of them are less, but they're pretty good so far. So that meant I got to a stage where I was like, I'm not going to finish this in time. And what I didn't want was to rush anything, because any author, any artist, anyone with any creative bone in their body will tell you can't be rushed to finish something, because creativity is something that gently flows out, and you have to be 100% engaged with it and fully being there in the moment. You can't be looking at your watch and thinking, right, okay, I've got 10 minutes, I've got to do this, and that just didn't work. So that's why I extended the release date, because it was meant to be for Halloween, for the 31st of October, but I had to extend it for another month. And at a push, I probably could have had it released another couple of weeks ago, but I didn't want to push at all. It doesn't make a great deal of difference, so it's just the way it is, I guess.
So Olivia asked, do you write at a specific time of day?
Whenever I've got a spare moment, basically. Yeah, so I used to write in the evenings. That used to be my time, but I'm much more productive first thing in the morning. So with lockdown, I now work from home constantly, and I've been doing that since February time. So I wake up some kind of 5:45 time, and I'm writing at 7. I write till 8 in the morning, then I start working. Then I write in my lunch hour, and then most evenings I'll write in the evening as well. That depends on whether I'm playing football or watching football, anything like that, really. But it will then tend to be when the family's gone to bed that I'll come in and write. But yeah, it's pretty much whenever I can, really. But in an ideal world, I'd get up early in the morning and I would write all morning. That would be my perfect time, I would say.
Tell us a little bit about your book covers. You've had some various variants, haven't you? Because at first you took the photos.
Yeah. So a lifetime ago, I think has had, sorry, not a lifetime ago, Lost Connections, I think has had about 5 or 6 covers. So the first one actually had my eldest daughter on it. And, that was released, I think, the 1st of January 2016. And back then, that was a time when it was my first book. I was happy to get a book out. I didn't know what to do for the cover. Originally, I wanted to just have a door on the cover, but I couldn't find any pictures at all. And, I didn't know about buying pictures and doing all stuff like that. So I think I had that one for about a year, something like that, 6 months. And then I took a picture, which was actually at Coat Water in Swindon. So it's a large lake. And, that I do like that cover. It's quite a nice cover. But what I found doing the covers yourself, whilst, they're okay, they're fairly good to a point. I just didn't want to settle with something being just good. And, there are professional people out there that are a lot better than I am at doing these things. So that's why in the end, you know, I entrusted Emmy to do my covers since being back self-publishing again. Because although I did have well, in the first instance with my American publisher, I was able to give them direction on what I wanted, and I was able to say, no, I don't like that, and no, I was, you know, thinking more of this, and they were fine with that. The last four, the ones that they've actually got at the moment, the covers of those, I didn't have any choice in them at all, really, and that's why I think they all completely stand out away from the rest of my books. And I don't think they help the books at all. But you know, that's a saga for another day. But no, I'm more than happy with my covers now. They're brilliant. Emmy listens. She doesn't need to have too much information, which is fantastic. I will literally just give her a couple of ideas. Or the blurb, and she will just come straight with something, and I'll be like, yeah, that's brilliant. That's just what I'm after. So that works really well. You know, I've given her pictures before of things I like the look of, and so later covers, she's kind of gone with that. She gets an understanding. So, you know, I very much like some of the covers from the old books from kind of the late 80s, early 90s, like the Richard Lehman covers, those sort of things that were kind of art and nicely done like that. Now, whether that's seen as slightly dated now, I don't know, but that's certainly something that I like. So mine are kind of bordering on that. So yeah, covers are incredibly important, I think. I'm very much into visuals, and I'd like to think of them going with the book nicely. You know, I write books as if they were movies. You know, that's the way I envisage them in my mind. You know, I like to think of myself as the director looking at them, and each scene that I'm writing is as if there was a camera. You know, and I will say, you know, as if you've got two characters that are stood back to back, and you know, we all see a camera that will just go around them like that, and I'll be trying to explain that because that's what I'm seeing, and that's what I want other people to try and kind of understand.
So Artie says, what do you do on the days you experience writer's block?
Weirdly, I don't get writer's block. And you know, I feel a bit embarrassed about that because I know some authors have a terrible time with it. You know, I see in groups where people are saying, you know, what can I do? I've not been able to write for ages. And I know things like lockdown had a massive effect on some people. And, you know, anyone with creativity found it extremely hard. I've never had that issue. You know, I've got so many ideas. My issue is I don't have enough time to do things. Like we say, you know, I've got the books planned out for the future. I just wish I had time to write them down. And I guess my biggest fear in life is that I will end up leaving behind a whole host of book ideas that never managed to make it to print. But no, never had writer's block.
Oh, so on top of all that busyness and like planning like a lot of books and all that kind of stuff, you've also decided to help other authors?
Yes, so I will always be one of these people that will pop up in a group when people are asking for advice, and I will just put a few words on there because, you know, when I first started, you know, from 2016, I had other authors who were helping me out. You know, people like Lee Russell was offering me advice, and you know, she was brilliant like that, and that was fantastic. You know, and you know, of late, I've had people like, you know, Maggie James and Mel Comley, and you know, loads of people who were more than willing to kind of share their experiences with me. And you know, I've always said this isn't a competition at all. We're not competitive with each other. We're, you know, I'm a reader. I've always been a reader. I've been a reader longer than I've been a writer or an author. So I want other great authors out there. It's not about me selling more books. It's not about me writing better books. You know, if I can write good books, then fantastic. but then I know the endings to them. I want to read other people's books, and so I want to help other people. And so many people help me. I want to give that back, and I'm very much into pay it forward. So Matt, for his sins, I don't even know how we first got in contact. I think he may have put a post up or something, and I answered it, and from there, I think he sent me his first couple of chapters to his debut novel, which he hadn't finished then. Asked me for my advice, and I went through it, and I made a couple of pointers, and from there, he's been coming back and forth. Specifically when he'd finished the novel, and I read through it, and it's been a nice little journey, because I've seen his novel almost blossom, come together. He's got a very good voice. He's got a very mature and almost a classical voice, I would say. And often I had to almost get him to become more contemporary, because he reads a lot of the classics. So, it's only natural that your voice will be what you're used to, what you enjoy. And unless your main character speaks like that all the time, sometimes you have to just tone it down and, bring it up to date a little bit more. And brilliant thing is, Matt's always listened to what I've said, and, hopefully he likes his book as much as I like it as well. And, it's been very good. So his books haven't got a release date for it yet, but I think it's going to probably be sometime in December. So, certainly within the next month, or actually thinking about, I think we were talking about maybe the 1st of January next year, we might have that as being released. So Matt's self-publishing that, but he is self-publishing it under Question Mark Press, which is just my own imprint. That's basically, I'm not a publisher at all. What Question Mark Press is, it's like an umbrella for other self-published authors. They control everything about their book, and it's just a community for us all to help each other, to promote each other, and they just get to have their book under Question Mark Press, under a website, under all the promotion that goes together, but all the royalties are theirs. It's helping authors. I'm not making anything out of that at all. It's purely, let's help each other.
So Olivia asks, what kind of books do you like to read?
I guess I like to read things that are completely different. So I like an element of mystery. I do read police procedurals, but there are a lot of them. So only certain authors, that are the ones that I think are head and shoulders above the others because they have a unique voice. Those are the ones that I like to read. But often I will be slightly put off by seeing it's another police procedural, unless it can have a little twist to it, or it's something different. And that's not to say anything negative towards them. It's just there's a lot of books like that out there. So I like a bit of comedy in the books. I guess I struggle with knowing exactly the type of books I like. And when I go to the library, I can be in there 30, 40, 50 minutes because I'm often drawn to the general section because I want something that's a little bit different. And that's often where you find it. And sometimes you have to just dig and dig and dig. And sometimes you get books and you start reading them and they're just not what you expected at all. And that's, that can be good and that can be bad. It just depends. I used to be a huge horror fan. Again, some horror got a bit more samey as it within the last, I guess, 15 odd years. But something that's slightly different, that's definitely what I like. And I guess I write the books that I want to read. So anything that's slightly cross genre that you're not expecting, I think those are the sort of things that I really like.
No mention of Laura Roberts?
Well, she certainly helped with how I look at characters, I guess. And yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with a good Nora Roberts book. Who doesn't like that? You know, they're quite nice little, almost cozy mysteries. There's nothing too offensive about them, but I like that they're set in the middle of nowhere, and it's very relationship based in mystery. So yeah, there's I have a penchant for those. Yes.
Samantha wants to know what you are most proud of in terms of your writing career so far.
It's a good question. I mean, the first book was brilliant to get my first book out there and to get it as well received as it was, albeit it still needed a number of re-edits, because although I'm an author and I enjoyed English at school, I didn't do any higher education when it came to English, so I could probably come up with a fairly good yarn, as it were, but structure-wise, all that sort of, academic-wise, when it came to English, I didn't have that. So that's something I've learned within the last probably only 4 or 5 years. I mean, some of it comes with reading a lot, and I'd always say that to any budding authors out there: just read and read and read, because your mind will take in structures, paragraphs, all that sort of thing of how things should be made up. But yeah, that's it really.
So she also asks, what advice would you give on developing an idea for a book, and how do you know when an idea will provide enough material? She's got all the tough questions today, Sam.
You don't know. It's as simple as that. Idea wise, if you like the idea yourself, that's the winner, because you should write for yourself. You should always write for yourself. If you don't enjoy what you're writing, then stop, do something else, or write something else. So you must always enjoy writing that book, because the book will take up a lot of your time and a lot of your focus, and you need to want to be fully engaged with your own book. It's funny how small ideas will expand in a book. Like I say, Little Miss Evil. The interesting thing with that book, I'll say now, is I had the cover before I wrote the book. So I won the cover in a competition, and I was thinking, how can I get a story with this? And I thought I just sit down and I'll start writing, and the book that came out of that was probably completely different to what I first envisaged it would be. And I think that is, how these things happen. But it's small ideas, and you just expand on those ideas. Use that idea as being the basis of the center of the story, and then other things can come out of that. Other characters can come in and out. And I always like to add odd, weird characters that just come in, and just give you something else to think about. But it's always important. What I've always been told is if something doesn't move a story on, then you don't need it. So there's a very fine line between bringing something in for entertainment value and bringing something in which is just stopping a story dead. And a lot of these things, it's all experience and just having a go and having good people around you who can read your books and tell you that doesn't work, maybe not this, maybe try that. And it is listening and learning. I'm far from the finished article, and I've got a long way to go, and I know that. But my writing now, I think, is a lot better than when I first started. And it's just all about recognizing that and understanding, and where are your weaknesses, and what, where can you go from here? And I don't write police procedurals, not just because there are a lot out there, but I don't know much about police procedure. I've got lots of friends who are policemen, because one of the nights of football I play is with the Swindon Police. However, I don't want to be going back and forth and finding these things and writing into the story, and then I've got to check with someone, and is that right or isn't it right? And then, often there'll be things where I'll go, well, it can be right, but it could be this, and so there's different interpretations. And for me, it's always been like, just stay away from that, because if I'm not as good as other people at it or better, then there's no point doing that, because you'll get lost in the sea of everyone else. So try and stick to something completely different. So if I write books like no one else, then I can only be as good as that one little area that I go into. So that's one of the ways of kind of getting a way around it. But yeah, you have to understand these things and always learn, always push yourself, and until I'm writing full time and I have an island in the Bahamas, then I will not consider that I've got to my full potential.
I like that. Nick Quantrill said that he made his character a PI because he didn't know anything about police procedure.
No, that's it, exactly.
Sam's asked, do you have specific things you're working on in terms of saying you're continuing to grow as an author?
I mean, with the series, a series is completely different. And so I'm now looking to how I need to plan and how I need to really hone in on what I've written before. On the individual books before, whilst there were characters which came in and out, you could get away with, details not being exact and things like that. But that's one of the things I've noticed now, everything has to be exact, because readers are very savvy on these things. And boy, do I get messages and stuff if I've got something wrong, because people will let you know about it. And that's just the way it is. And you have to understand that people are taking every single word you write and they are looking at it under a microscope, which isn't to say it's something to worry about, but you have to just understand these things. I mean, I think we've spoken in the past about my book Noah's Lament, when the main character in that had an argument with his teacher about Shakespeare, and said that he didn't think Shakespeare was any good. And someone that reviewed my book absolutely hated that, and they had to put the book on hold because it infuriated them so much that somebody couldn't like Shakespeare. And I was trying to say, the main character was a 17-year-old boy, and he's having an argument with a teacher who's an English literature teacher there. And it's not to say it's my views, it's not to say it's anyone's specific views. It's it's a fictional character, but people do take these things to heart. And as an author, we have to also, I guess, be a bit mindful as well of things that we write. But at the end of the day, I've never wanted to be told what I can write, what I can't write. But that said, there are moral things that I think we have to be aware of as well. It's not, as a youngster, you like shock value. As you get older, you realise that shock value has its place, and you have to be very careful in what you're doing. So there's a lot of things to learn.
So you described yourself as a cross-genre.
Yeah.
Are there any genres you wouldn't write?
Probably historical, because that sounds like way too much research, way too much writing down, too much for my memory to cope with. So yeah, things like that. Sci-fi, I'm not sure on. I did a sci-fi short story once, and I don't know. I just completely made things up, and somewhere along the line it came together okay. But I was pretty much just drawn in on Star Wars movies I'd seen, and kind of just changing things like that. It was very generic and cliched, going around planets and on spaceships, but with comedy in it as well. And it was fun to write. It was something different, but that's not something I'd be able to do. Possibly not even a straight up romance, I don't think, even though, you know, I've still talked about doing more young adult books, and I think they very much have, you know, a kind of a romance feeling to them, because they are often coming of age, really understanding, you know, other people and these feelings and all stuff like that. So it's almost a bit of a mashup between kind of a romance with kind of a mystery, and then depending on how you want to tilt it, you can tilt it with a bit of horror in it, you can tilt it with some crime in it, and anything like that. So, you know, I think that's something I'm very much interested in going down in the future.
I've asked you in the past if you'd write a straight kind of urban fantasy style novel. Is that something you'd ever think about?
Yeah. I mean, I've got an idea for a book, possibly a series. So I can't say too much on that at the moment, because it's still just mulling around at the moment. But there's something I'm working on, which, you know, it won't be next year. I mean, I could pretend it's going to be next year, but it's not going to be next year. And that fun book I was on about with the 4 people in America on the road trip, that was going to be next year. That's not going to be next year, I don't think. I think it's going to be more like 2022 on that one, and this series may be similar. It's yeah, a lot of things boil down to how well the Hudson Vale series goes. You know, I'm really enjoying writing those ones. Depending on whether I do 2 books a year on those or 1 book, you know, I can probably do 4 books a year, maybe 5 books a year, depending on circumstance. So, you know, we'll have to see from that. Short story wise, I'd give any genre a go, and that's what I've done in the past. And, you know, I've written, you know, 12, 13, 14 odd short stories over many genres, and they were a good way of me dipping my toe in, basically, and just having a go at another genre. And so I've done a rom-com and that, you know, like I say, I've done the sci-fi, I've done horrors, I've done crime, what else have I done? More young adult. So, and actually a few of my books have been expanded from the short stories I've done previously. So, you know, that's always an interesting thing on that I thought actually I could actually make that into a bigger book.
Sam says, has your writing process changed much from book 1 to today?
Yeah, so I mean, when I first started, really, I was looking to, or even really up until last year or so, I was only writing in the evenings, maybe once or twice a week. I would say since I went back self-publishing again, kind of something clicked in with me that I was just writing more and more and more and more, and suddenly it just became more of an obsession. And I think the better the more well received my books got, the more I wanted to continue and push on. And, you know, to the point of probably early this year, you know, January time, I conceded that actually it was like a small business to me. It was a second job, and I've treated it as such, you know, trying to put money into it to get money out of it, to look at, you know, the full running of it, to look at a long-term plan, to, you know, all these different things, you know, that before was just a hobby. Now your complete mindset changes. And I think that is when you can push on and kick on, because you're accepting that this is what you want to do.
Artie says, what's been your biggest challenge you've had to face as an author, and how have you overcome them?
Cool. Tough questions today, aren't they?
I know. Keep on your toes.
I'd say that the hardest part was probably within the last few months, where I suddenly had a lot of projects and suddenly had deadlines. You know, you can plan things out yourself, but when other people become involved, for the good and the bad, suddenly that goes out the window. So, I had the deadline to Little Miss Evil that I was trying to do. And, I had Matt's book that I was desperate to get out for him. And, obviously he was desperate to get the book out. And his book was in my, hands until I'd done my bit and I'd read through it. And, with someone else's work, it's someone else's baby. And I have to dedicate my time completely to that. It's not something I can just quickly put down, pick up, put down, pick up. I have to completely immerse myself in it. It's not right that I don't do that. This is for him. So, I wanted to help him with that. Then, other opportunities have arisen as well. And I have to take those seriously if I want to be going further. So I've been trying to juggle all those things at once. And that's been quite hard. But, two of those are out the way now. I've just got one that I'm completely focused on at the moment. And, fingers crossed that will be okay. And, hopefully it all works out for the best.
What do your family think of your books?
They don't really get involved too much, to be honest. I don't know, to be honest. It's a tough one. None of them are particularly big readers, so it's aside from being proud of what I achieve, I think I'm very much left to my own devices to crack on, to focus, and go on that way, I think.
Would you make a graphic novel of one of your books?
I couldn't myself because my drawing isn't that good. I'd love my books to be made into a graphic novel. That'll be fantastic. Personally, I think something like The Revenge of Lisa Lipstick will make a good graphic novel. But I think that'll be really good. I really like to see that. To see your books in different mediums is just fantastic. It's such a nice achievement, and it's also something that someone else can be involved in as well, which I think is nice. My ultimate goal will be to have a Netflix series of my books, or obviously a movie, something like that. But who doesn't want that? But like I say, that's how I write my books, to be pictured like that. But something like a graphic novel would be fantastic. Yeah.
You need to mail your books to the Netflix executives.
Yeah, when I get a spare moment, and this is the problem, it's making that time, and it is about making the time, because it's very easy to put these things off, and as an author, procrastinating is just part and parcel. It's just second nature to us. I can quite easily sit in front of my laptop for 40, 50 minutes without typing a word. And that's not because I got writer's block. It's because I'm distracted. I'm messaging people, I'm going back and forth. I'm looking at posts. I'm writing down ideas for other books, or I'm just generally just distracted. That's how I spend most of my life, just distracted.
We've only got 2 minutes left. Do you want to give everyone a reminder of your books again, and when they can get them?
Sure. So I think it's 12 books I've written now. So 8 of those are self-published, and obviously they're the Hudson Bell series, which I'm very proud of. And we've got Lost Connections, Place That Never Existed. Cold Tree. No, I can't remember from there. But
Little Miss Evil.
Little Miss Evil, which is out on Monday. Paperback's available now if anyone fancies that. Which, I think it's just something slightly different, and possibly another area for me to go off in. I just wish I had more time so I could write more books in more genres. I think that would be perfect for me.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. You guys have supported me since pretty much the beginning of the group, and which I think was maybe early 2016, was it? Something like that. And so it was
January.
Yeah,
2016.
So it was the same month that my first book came out. So you've supported me ever since. So that's been fantastic.
It's been a pleasure having you on.
Thank you very much.